Silo has returned with Season 3 after 18 months away, and with Jules' memory gone, her ascending the position of mayor, the Silo being a divided force through departments and also through belief systems, Sims taking on the position of judge, and Camille being given what seems the highest power of authority in there by the algorithm. This definitely feels like it could be the most thought-provoking season of the show yet. Not only did we spend time in the silo, but we also saw a continuation from the final scene in Season 3 when Congressman Daniel Keene met with reporter Helen Drew and the retaliation the United States were going to be carrying out on Iran following the Dirty Bomb. With an insight into how long the silos had been there, the strange cloud at 50,000 feet, Jules simply being a puppet, and the first Silo Council meeting taking place, let's dive into the episode, explain the ending, and discuss the most important questions. Here is Silo Season 3 Episode 1, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. What's happening with Jules? With the episode pretty much opening up with the vitamins being slammed down on the table and it being the very first thing that we saw, it always felt like those tablets were gonna have a wider importance, and with what we saw during the ending, they very much did. These weren't vitamins for Jules to take like she was being told. They were memory suppression tablets that would cause her to forget everything that happened when she was on the outside. Following what happened during the Season 3 finale when Jules confronted Bernard and returned to the silo, with her wearing the fireproof suit that was all she could find in Silo 17 and was tested by Solo to be an equivalent, that was actually the very thing that allowed her to survive the ordeal, and why it was that Bernard was in a far more critical condition than what she was during the aftermath. She didn't suffer burns like he did, as the regular cleaning suit wasn't fireproof to the same level. Jules couldn't remember who she was, what her purpose was, and what she was supposed to do, and with the shot of her looking in the mirror when she was getting ready for the day and it cutting to black when she turned out the light, that was symbolically leaning into that thought process that she was having. Silo 18 was now at some level of peace, especially when compared to Season 2, and Jules was being told that the peace that was present was all because of her and because she came back. It's a message that was being reinforced to her over and over again, and Camille desperately wanted her to believe that because she didn't want others to have hope and faith that there could be something else out there and then try to mirror what she did. The responsibility of the wellness of the silo and the rebellion grinding to a halt is what was being placed on Jules' shoulders, and that if she were to try and do something out of line, then all of their lives could potentially be at risk because they're all turning to her. She's almost being viewed as this messiah-type figure and savior by the people, with them quite literally worshipping her. This is why she was sworn in as mayor when she was out cold, because following Bernard taking over that position as interim during the previous season, Jules was somebody that the people could actually truly believe in. Jules was a reserved individual in this premiere, and you could feel the weight of responsibility that was sitting on her shoulders due to the position that she was in, but also the conflicted nature that she had because she felt like she could remember elements of what had happened, but she didn't know if it was a dream or a suppressed memory in a flashback, reminding her of something that she needed to do. The other people in the silo were unaware of the fact that there are 50 other silos that are out there, as we learned in the previous season, one for each state in the United States of America, and an extra one for Washington DC, the district where all of the decisions get made. So this is something that the founders don't want anybody else to know, because it might give people a sense of hope that there are others out there and that outside could be safe. That's why when the sign of Paddy Kennedy's posse, known as the Outsiders, who roam around in masks and try to spread the message that the outside is safe and that the projection was a lie, Jules then began to have her memories coming back to her. Plus, Kennedy spreading the message that the outside was safe and that the display was a lie is something that causes even more unrest amongst the people. Like we saw in Silo 17, and it can actually bring about more damage than good. Jules was being told by Camille that when she left the silo, she went to a refuge shed that wasn't too far away. She waited there and rested until she was healed, and with there miraculously being a suit that was in there, she then made her way back. Jules was also being served fake helmet cam footage of the situation to try and make it more believable, but it wasn't enough. She believed that she went to another silo, like she actually did, and that she broke back into Silo 18 with a crowbar. With those memories coming back to her, and with Camille going to the algorithm at the end, she was told that Jules' memory suppression medication needed to be increased and the dosage doubled because they were fearful over the fact that she had started to remember things after 3 months of being in complete darkness. Jules is essentially a puppet and wearing a cloak that wields no power or authority whatsoever. She simply restored hope into the silo, as we saw with Orla, and the fact that she felt like there was a bright future ahead of them. But it's Camille and Sims that are basically the ones dictating what happens in the silo at the command of the algorithm. Jules is having her every move watched by cameras, and despite it being announced that most of the cameras that Bernard had put up in the silo were removed, Jules was having a close eye being kept on her. During the ending of the episode, we saw that after her dosage was upped, she received salmon chowder, and inside of the bowl was a message that said, "Want to know the truth? Turn your bowl upside down, go to the marketplace at 2, burn this." This is what she did, showing that she was looking for answers. She turned to Shirley, but Shirley wasn't prepared to give her the time of day and was almost blaming her for being different when she couldn't help it. I get that she was mourning her friend and upset that she couldn't be remembered, but I found it strange that her reaction was a bit like that. I think the person that left Jules the note is most likely a member of one of Patrick Kennedy's posse, and they'll be looking to reveal some kind of truth to her. It was said that Lucas Kyle was still missing and was presumed to be dead, so I wouldn't actually put it past him to have sent the message to Jules and be willing to reveal some truths to her. The state of Silo 18. Well, it's been 3 months since the events of Jules returning to the silo happened, and for the most part of it, the silo has seemed to have returned to the pre-rebellion levels of supply, which is exactly what Orla said, which came from the people being willing to use less, to take some out of critical supplies and eventually get things back on track. Orla is a character that's already one of my favourites of the season, just because of the pure, empathetic, and wanting to do good for others nature that it seems like she has. She had a bit of a feud with Ed Harwood, who was the head of mines, and I thought his performance was great. Through him, we learned that through the tunnels and shafts that were leading all through the silo, none of them led to any form of escape, except the one that he clearly hasn't found on level 14, which is in every silo that allows 51 to initiate the safeguard procedure. Through these tunnels, he could tell how long the silo had been there, and he predicted that it had been around for about 300 years. This makes me think that the flashback that we were seeing in Washington with Daniel Keene took place around 300 years ago. I thought a subtle detail into the time period was the fact that there was a plastic straw and not a paper one, meaning that what we're watching could be set in the late 2010s or early 2020s. The general mood of the silo is one that's positive, however there are pockets that seem to have levels of conflict. We saw Orla and Ed had their own personal conflict on the go, and Orla was also aware of the fact that supplies were being stolen and could well be getting transported down the gap. Supplies such as computers, bulbs, and other useful supplies. As well as that, Paddy Kennedy was missing and in hiding, and his posse of people that followed him, called the Outsiders, were causing havoc and chaos and were looking to expose what they believed was the truth. The truth in their eyes is that the outside world was safe and that there was nothing to be afraid of. The lady that got her wrist broken by a raider is most likely going to meet a damning end if she gets caught. They broke into the IT room and stole a cleaning helmet, which makes me think that they're going to be operating on their own and looking to expose the truth by actually going out there. The leaders of the silo were all essentially puppets, but the one person that I thought was particularly interesting to follow was Sheriff Paul Billings. He seemed so much more docile when compared to before, and almost like he had no heart left inside of him. He was amending elements of the pact that could well be outdated, and he was going through it with a fine-tooth comb. We've entered a time of transparency, change, and truth in the silo, but the reality of it is, we've really not. Jules is literally being medicated, so she can't reveal any of the truths that she uncovered. Sims and Camille. With Sims, we saw that he was appointed as judge in the silo, and Camille, after she was asked by the algorithm in the previous season to stay in the room on her own and be spoken with by herself, she's now adopted the maroon robe, which symbolized that she was a counselor and leader of the ruling body. This is why she was essentially orchestrating the facade that Jules was being told that she needed to believe. What we also saw with them is that they were responsible for the death of Bernard. They'd made out like Bernard died in the fire due to his suit not being able to withstand the flames like Jules' suit could, but in actual fact, he did survive, but Robert Sims killed him. I'm presuming that the algorithm told them to do it, and they were orders that they needed to follow. Sims still holds a grudge against Jules for when she held his family at gunpoint, and even though she can't remember, it's something that he's not forgotten. Does anybody else question why Sims speaks so slowly and why it genuinely sounds like he's reading the script when he speaks? I've thought that for seasons now, and I don't know whether he's just supposed to be a bit of an emotionless character, but it does become difficult to listen to. Congressman Daniel Keene. During the ending of the previous season, we saw that Daniel Keene met with a reporter, and it was the first time we'd seen what looked like a completely different time period to what we were seeing within the world of the silos. This episode took a hold of that and basically cut between the two different landscapes and provided the backdrop as to why the silos could have been created. We know for a fact that the Pez that was given to the journalist in the Season 3 finale ended up finding itself as a relic in the silo, so it showed that there's a long journey ahead of how the silos ended up being built and how a large portion of people ended up in there 300 years ago. With the backdrop of this entire section being the US looking to retaliate against Iran for the dirty bomb, Daniel Keene's sister, Charles, was set to fly her F-35 and was going to be participating in a retaliation strike. When herself and two others emerged to 50,000 feet, they came across what looked like a cloud, something that shouldn't have been up that high when she was there. There was this weird slime and goo on her screen that then caused the other pilots to burst into flames and for her to crash land and eventually be rescued. The mission in the facility to the mountain that she was on was intercepted by this, and she was ultimately rescued. When she reached the Heidi Stenson facility, she couldn't remember her brother because she suffered a traumatic brain injury, showing that she was almost going to be following in the same direction as to what Jules was. Did she, like Jules, know a bit too much information? She was paranoid when going to meet her brother, and she wanted her brother to take precautionary measures. So I wonder if we're going to see parallels in the two different stories. Charles was aware of the direction that was being taken, and she wanted her brother to get in on the Iran committee. I think this is because she knows the severity of what's going on, and that if he's a part of the committee, then he might end up inside of one of the silos. The new normal was already being teased in the season finale, and with him being a congressman, it makes me question if he could have ended up being a high figure in Silo 51. This entire section has to be a flashback, and I'm presuming it took place before the bombs were dropped onto the United States. It's been presumed that it was Iran, but what if, like in Fallout, it was actually done by themselves? Could the US have been looking to have built a weapon so reactionary that it ended up causing harm to their own country and driving the radiation levels up even higher, which would have caused the need for the silos even more? I guess we'll find out with time. My review of the episode. I thought this was a really strong season premiere. There's always been a mysterious edge to Silo, and this one made sure that it cut through just as it has done in the previous seasons. I forgot how good the visuals are in this show, and also the world immersion too. I love shots such as Jules looking in the mirror and turning out the light, which showed that she forgot who she was, and I also loved the one of the turnstile at the hotel block just spinning around, and we were going through that journey too. It actually made me feel a bit queasy. The incorporation of the outside world is something that I was a bit skeptical of to start with because I was worried that the story could get a bit lost, but whilst it can feel abrupt cutting between the two time periods, I feel it still worked well. I think the more it happens, the more I'll get used to it. I like the fact that the show isn't grinding to a halt and is actually introducing a different time period and maybe the root cause of how it came to be. It's very similar to how the Fallout TV series plays out, with us seeing Cooper in the past and also him as Ghoul in the present day. The song selection of having Peter Gabriel's come talk to me over the credits after Jules received a note basically asking if she wanted to know the truth was the perfect way for it to finish, and I found myself just soaking it in. In terms of the performances, I thought Rebecca Ferguson as Jules picked right back up where she left off. The loss of memory that she has is believable, and in seeing how professional and emotionless that she's been acting, you can see why the likes of Shirley is upset. Another performance that I really liked was the performance of Ed Harwood, head of mines. I loved the actor's performance as Charlie Shelby in Peaky Blinders, and it feels like his level and quality of acting is going to be brought into this show, so they've made a great decision casting him. Overall, I thought it was a really good season premiere. It established a few mysteries, it outlined the divide that's present within the silo, we got a glimpse at the authority there, and we saw that Jules is going to not only be battling with her own mind, but with those that she's supposed to be able to trust. I think we're in for a good time this season. So, there you have it, Silo Season 3 Episode 1 Ending Explained.